With most of the free agency moves already done, what do you think about James Gladstone? Do you trust him in the brass? And meet Pat Mekari. We'll do that today on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is without question, it is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. You can find wherever you get your podcasts. If you watch them, if you listen to them, wherever you get them, make sure you tap in each and every day so you don't miss an episode. Shout out to the everydayers who join us every day. Hopefully, if this is your first time, you'll stick around and stay and become an everydayer yourself. Here's what we got going on today. We're going to end up comparing Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, the beginning. These dudes are going to be attached at the hip, sort of the way the Jaguars and the Lions were going all the way back to like 2021, 2022. We didn't like how that race ended up. But since Ben Johnson was the dude that everyone was talking about, that they wanted so much, and then it kind of switched to Liam Cohen when the process of hiring started, we're going to take an early look and see how y'all feel about that. Meet Pat Mekari, or Patrick Mekari. We are going to hear from Kevin Ostricher, my buddy with Locked On Ravens, and he is going to let you know all about. I haven't even listened to the clip, by the way, but he sent it to me. And yesterday, we actually played a clip yesterday where David Harrison introduced us to Dyami Brown. We'll do these so you guys can get an idea of who these players are from the lens of the team that is losing them from their roster. First and foremost, we're going to discuss this. We're going to get to the top of this thing and talk about, do you trust the new brass? These guys said they're going to be bold, right? I heard James Gladstone say something about being bold. Bold doesn't mean making a big splash in the splash that everybody expects you to make. Bold could be not making that splash, signing Dyami Brown, who only has 700 yards in career receptions, because your scout's eye says he is an ascending player, and he did have the best year of his career just this past season. So bold could mean doing what everyone expects, or it could mean doing what everyone doesn't expect without knowing that's what you're doing. And what I mean by that is the Jaguars probably aren't sitting around saying, well, everybody says we're going to yin, so we're going to yang. But what they are doing is saying, look, we're going to be bold in our approach. The being bold in our approach and going out and getting guys that we believe fit what we do. Sometimes that's just taking a chance on people and doing things that you know are not going to win the press conference. They're not going to be popular. That's another way to look at being bold, right? I still trust them. I ask everyone, the way that I operate is I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and I'll give you the trust until you lose it. I'm not the type of person that sits here with my arms folded up going, let me see if I want to trust you or not. I don't, let me see. Because that's usually based on whether a team does what you want them to do or not, right? And we're not in the position to make decisions. We're also not the people that are going to be in positions to have to suffer the consequences for things that do not work. So I also say, give them the benefit of the doubt, give them a chance. I'm not going to scream on them for everything that they do. I'm not going to yell at them because I got it wrong. And see, this is the thing that we don't understand sometimes. When they don't do what we thought they were going to do, they didn't get it wrong. We did. We were trying to guess what it was that they were going to do because we don't know them very well, correct? In this particular situation. Well, they signed some guys, a whole bunch of dudes that I don't think was on anybody's list. The one team that or the one player that I did have on one of my multiple wish lists that I made, one of them was Patrick Mekari. And we'll hear from Kevin Ostricher talk about him. But yeah, man, the simple thing is that you just can't be upset when they don't do what you wanted them to do. One, they don't listen to you. Two, they have more information than we do, right? So I know somebody's going to say, well, Wig, you beat up Trent Baalke every day. Yeah, because Trent had more information than we did. And Trent acted like he was doing better than everybody else. And he wouldn't answer questions. And he wouldn't talk about the things that had already happened. And all he would just continue to do is basically let everybody feel like they didn't know what they were doing. He's done this for a long time. Look, for us, this was all about whether or not it's going to work or not. And this was all about results. And the results were indicative of it not working. And I think what they used to want us to do was, okay, you got to pick who's wrong. Normally, you ain't going to be mad at the GM because you don't see him all the time. You're going to be mad at the coaches. And that's why I harped on everyone to stop getting on Press and Doug, even though they deserved it also. I said, you're not casting a wide enough net. And at first, it looked like that backfired in everybody's face because initially Shad Khan did not move on from Trent Baalke. And then he figured it out. Once Liam Cohen said he wasn't coming here, a whole bunch of things happened. You know what happened after that. And now we do have Liam Cohen. But we have talked about what this staff would possibly do. We have talked ad nauseum about the direction they're going to go in. I don't look at what they've done as a disappointment. I look at what they've done as clarity. Let me say it again. It is not disappointment for me. It's clarity. We were the ones wondering what they were thinking and what they were doing and trying to figure it out. What they have told you and what they have shown you is exactly who they are, what they think, and what they were going to do. Who do they like and who do they don't like? All right, let's go through the free agency list real quick. Nick Mullins, quarterback. He knows the system. He's going to be Trevor's buddy. He's a backup. That's what he is. And if you have to have a backup in for too long, it's going to be a problem. Now, keep in mind now, he was in Minnesota, but Minnesota went out and got a backup quarterback in Sam Darnold. Then they got another backup quarterback in Daniel Jones during the season. So I think Nick Mullins is about as much of a helpmate than he is anything else, and you don't really want to see him on the field. I think he's going to have almost a helpmate coach's role, clipboard, explaining things to Trevor type role than he is the dude that's going to be running on the field, giving you hope that they're going to win, because that wasn't even the case in Minnesota. Diamond Brown, we discussed him yesterday. A 1-year, $10 million deal. Could be up to $12 million. He adds an element of speed to the team, gives them also another playmaker who can put the ball in his hands. He did it in the playoffs. The two tight ends, Hunter Long and Johnny Munt, I think they changed the way that room looks. Gone are the move tight ends, and gone are and incoming are the dual threat tight ends. And that, to me, that's one of the most important things that they did, even though neither one of these guys is a great player, and they don't make a whole bunch of money. But this tells me that they like Brenton Strange and they like the duality of their tight ends. They like guys that can do multiple things. And then on the offensive line, I had often said that they needed to bring in 4 or 5. Well, they've already got off to a good start, and they got 3 in, right? 1 2 are going to start. That's Robert Hainsey, the center, and Patrick Mekari. I don't know what side he's going to play on, but he has a lot of versatility. So because of that and the fact that they added Chuma Edoga, who started some games in Dallas at right tackle, we didn't know who the right tackle was going to be last year, if especially once they traded Cam, if Anton Harrison got hurt. I think this is a push everybody, get bigger, get stronger. Let me get the measurables for Chuma up here real quick. Yeah, he's 6'4", 315 pounds. So compact, built sort of like a little bit of a refrigerator. Robert Hainsey is 6'4", 306 pounds. So not these girthy guys that you thought. And I think Mekari 6'5". Yeah, he's 6'4", 305. So all these guys are about the same size. They got guys that know how to move their feet, though, and get out in space. And I think that's critical and that's important, and maybe why they didn't go after a guy like Mekhi Becton, because that's not his strength. Somebody asked me about that yesterday. And then go to the secondary, Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray. Guys that have played a lot of football and have done a lot of things. They're glue guys is what they are. Lewis is considered one of the 3 best slot corners in the National Football League. I think he's going to have a chance to play outside. Him or Jarian Jones will figure it out, but they just got the talent in the building. And Eric Murray, that's a good contract. 3-year, $22.5 million. They take him away from the Houston Texans inside of the division. He's a good, sure tackler too. Well, he did have a couple of issues with tackling, but he covers a lot of ground. He plays like his feet are on fire, and I absolutely love that. Now, we've discussed all of these guys. We're going to get into here in the second segment. We're going to listen to what Kevin Ostricher of Locked On Ravens has to say about Patrick Mekari. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Surprising insights, all-in-one convenience, easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half your first year. All right, here we go. Moving along, we're going to talk about, do a little spotlight off of the free agency signings. The Jaguars have 9 players so far. Patrick Mekari is very interesting. He's one of the guys that I looked at because the thing that I did maybe a couple of months ago, I went through all of the teams that are really, really good teams. Usually good teams have a lot of players they have to pay. I looked at the free agents for all of the teams that I thought were playoff teams, right? And I looked specifically at offensive linemen, and Patrick Mekari came up, and I started to watch some of the tape from him, some of the things that he does well, things that he doesn't do well. And the thing that sticks out is his versatility. He played primarily at left guard for the Ravens in this past season, but he also spent some time out at right tackle. He's played center. He's played left tackle. He's done it all, man. And that has to be very, very difficult because you hear guys, I remember they were asking the dude in Miami, what was it like switching from one guard spot to the other? He says it's like wiping your, hind parts with your offhand, like it's awkward. But for Mekari to be able to do that really, really easily, that means he's a technician. The thing that I like about him is he fires off the ball. He does everything he's supposed to do with the kind of strength that he needs to, uses a lot of leverage, and then he climbs to that second level and he's able to make another block. He's the type that doesn't quit on plays. And if you've seen the Jaguars linemen, how many times have you watched tape where they made their initial hit and then they just stood there and they were all looking at each other? There have been times I watched the Jaguar offensive line on tape. They make their initial contact, and then you see the quarterback or the running back run it, and you see everybody except them run it, and they're all standing over there like, oh, my God, I hope he gets away. And I think that effort, the lack of that effort, the lack of making that second, like they talk about defensive ends making that second move, well, the offensive line, they can redirect also. And sometimes if you're not a good enough athlete or you just don't have it inside of you, you don't redirect. And it could be the difference between your guy getting away and not getting away. Here's Kevin Ostricher, my brother from another mother. He's also my Tuesday guest every single week on Locked On NFL. Here's Kevin Ostricher telling you about Patrick Mekari. And oh, by the way, let me clear this up. I just figured this out. It's not Mekari, it's Mekari. Mekari. You just want to know who it is and what he's all about. Check out my man KO.
Jaguars fans, you just signed Patrick Mekari. What do you need to know about him? Well, Mekari came to Baltimore by way of undrafted free agency, and the thing with him is he's able to play all 5 positions in a pinch, and he does it really well. It's not like he necessarily excels at any one over the other, but he's had starting experience, high leverage situations even in each of those spots for the Ravens over the course of his career so far. Someone who, if you do need him to step into a certain spot, he can be there. He offered a lot of positional flexibility for the Ravens. So even when he was starting at one position, if another guy went down, the Ravens were able to flip Mekari to a different spot if they felt like a backup on the bench were to fit in a different spot elsewhere. So you don't feel as pigeonholed with the guys you have on your roster because Mekari can fill in at all 5 spots, center, guard, and tackle. He's a guy that if you need him, he will be there. Now, in terms of his play, he's someone that has had up and down moments in Baltimore over the course of his career there. He had some errant snaps at center that even concussed Lamar Jackson in their playoff loss to the Buffalo Bills. But I think overall his center and tackle play was the better of his 3 spots. Guard, he started there last year for the Ravens. He's someone that is on the smaller side, but still does have some strength to him, can get blown off the ball sometimes and will have bad whiffs on plays, but every offensive lineman has those. I would say, though, that for a player in Mekari who offers you that positional versatility, it's difficult to even play one position well at the NFL level. For some guys, Mekari can play all 5. So I think Jacksonville will enjoy Mekari. He's someone that will certainly be missed in Baltimore. And for Jaguars fans, someone you should be really excited about.
There you go, Jaguar fans. My man Kevin Ostricher, we appreciate him, courtesy of course, the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Ravens for doing that for us. You heard it from, his mouth. He didn't sugarcoat it. He said, yeah, he's on a little bit on the smaller side. And I know we all, felt like, they were going to get these big 330 pounders. I was one of them. And then when you hear Liam Cohen say they're going to see us coming, sometimes that seeing them coming doesn't mean big and girthy. Sometimes it means the dude that's going to technician you to death, right? This is extremely interesting for me. The Jaguars now have 2 guys. Well, they have 3 guys on their team, including Luke Fortner, that they're very familiar with. I don't know if they even went after Drew Dalman. And if they did, and maybe that price got too high, they did a nice job falling back and getting something. You don't want to go into the draft. You don't want to go into the draft needing a center, and then you're sitting there saying, well, who's going to let me trade back up into the first round and get Gray Zabel? I think the Jaguars want to use that 5th pick on the best player they could possibly get, with the hopes that this means whoever they're going to get somebody right there at 5, because they don't expect to be camping out there in the future. This is going to be the last time in a long time that they're sitting there that high, barring them trading and getting a high pick from somebody else, that they're going to be. So I think they're going to try to use this pick to get a sure bona fide star in the National Football League, regardless of positions. These 2, the signings of Hainsey and Mekari, allowed them the flexibility to not sit there and want to move back and make sure that they have to get Gray Zabel, and that's Gray Zabel to me and Jarrett Wilson are the 2 centers in this draft that are worth making noise about. And maybe they don't think that it come early in the second round, Zabel's going to be around, but you just can't chance. You can't take a chance that you're going to be missing on a center and have an opportunity. Now they have 2 guys that they know that can hike the ball, and they also have one in Mekari that once competition comes into it, and I think they're going to draft some more offensive linemen, once you get in there and everything gets mixed up, the best is going to play. Whoever the best are, they are going to play. I still say if they can get Zabel in the second round, or if they're, if they have another trade partner that allows them to get back up into the 20s, that's something that they might do. Now, speaking of what they might do, there's another team that's doing exactly what the Jaguar fans thought the Jaguars were going to do. In fact, they're doing it with the guy that a lot of people thought was going to be the Jaguars coach. We're going to talk about the Bears and Ben Johnson, and how Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson are going to be joined at the hip for a long time until it proves who's the better hire between those 2. We'll do that and more here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the net. You know those buzzer beaters are coming. You know those Cinderella stories are coming. It's going to be that one team that everybody's going to be rooting for. All right, this is what you do. Make sure you pick your favorites now. Pick who you think's going to win the game. And then you can let the magic work when it comes to by how many and whatever. Staying in on the action. Live betting is there for you to use just in case you miss a few minutes of the game. You can always be on an action all the way until the end of the game. And it's easy and it's fast and you get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action of March Madness. All tournament long, make sure you choose FanDuel. All right, finishing up here on Locked On Jaguars, we asked, do you trust the new brass? I kind of told you why you don't really have much of a choice. You have to, because it's not time to judge or give results to anything that they've done. It is extremely early. Just take what they've done as a sign of this is what we were thinking when you were wondering what we were thinking about, when you were wondering how we were going to move. Well, now you see it. So now you can adjust your thought process accordingly. Patrick Mekari, the Jaguars have a versatile offensive lineman. Ironically, Kevin Ostricher says he was better at tackling and center than he was at guard. So a lot of people are penciling him in as the right guard, and that's where he's played probably the least amount of time. So I don't know. That's up to them. We'll have to figure that out as we go along also. But something else we'll have to give patience to, and that is the whole Liam Cohen versus Ben Johnson thing. That is, while it's not an official thing, it kind of is the thing to the fans around here. The fans wanted Ben Johnson all last season. Then it started to shift to where it looked like it was going to be not him, but Liam Cohen. And that's what ended up happening. And then all of a sudden the fans said, well, this is the guy we wanted anyway. And then they heard Liam speak, and then they heard Ben Johnson speak, and they go, oh, we dodged the bullet in typical fandom fashion. And I'm not angry at you because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to feel that way, right? It's still funny that it happened because you could predict that kind of stuff is going to happen. And then there's this talk, well, Ben chose Chicago over Jacksonville because he wanted to coach Caleb over Trevor. So if you see what I'm doing, back in the day, about 3 years ago, when it was Jaguars picking 1, Detroit picking 2nd, Jaguars take Trayvon Walker, Detroit takes Aiden Hutchinson. And while those two things, it's been very, very interesting. Aiden has become everybody's darling and rightfully so, the All-Pro. Whereas Trayvon, you almost have to go to the tape and explain to people why he's valuable. But coaches around the league know, and he's had 2 straight years of double-digit sacks. And I still think the best is yet to come. But Detroit as an organization took off. The Jaguars actually made the playoffs first. And this is a lesson to everybody. The Jaguars made the playoffs in year 1 of Doug Peterson. The Detroit Lions, they missed their chance at the playoff because they lost the game that they should have won late in the season. And it looked like the Jaguars were winning. And then here come the Lions. The Lions go to the NFC Championship game. And then last year they had a bunch of injuries and they were really, really close to getting to the championship game, but they did not make it. But they're on a different level to the point where all the Jaguars coaches got fired. All the Lions coaches got poached to go get jobs from other teams. Needless to say, Detroit won that in that 3-year window. Well, now with Liam and Ben, this is going to set up to see who is going to win this because there's 2 young quarterbacks. Both have offensive lines that needed fixing. Both have impact players that they need on their defensive front. They both have a number 1 wide receiver that they're already committed to. They got some good players in some good spots. They both hire coaches that can be joined at the hip because they both said they want to run the football. They're young play callers. There's a lot of identity that appears like they're twins, right? So the race is going to be who's going to have the most success. Jaguar fans are a little bit angry these days because the things that they wanted to happen are actually happening off the field when it comes to the Chicago Bears. What do I mean by that? Well, Chicago Bears, they were hell-bent on fixing their trenches. They also signed 3 offensive linemen, but it's Jonah Jackson, Joe Tooney, and Drew Dahlman. So if you look at the 3 linemen that they signed versus the 3 linemen that the Jaguars signed, they have bona fide sure starters on the interior. The Jaguars have 2 starters and a depth guy. I would say that Jaguar fans are probably sitting there going, they're doing what we're supposed to be doing. They even signed an edge rusher, Dayo Adeyingbo, and he's Trayvon Walker light. That's what he is. He's a big power edge rusher that's going to probably line up in that 4-eye spot for them and play the big end spot. Big kid, 6'5", 285 pounds. They signed the veteran defensive tackle in Grady Jarrett to provide a little bit of stability to their defensive line. And everyone is giving them and Washington the trophy for winning the offseason. Not so fast. Not so fast. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I believe, are in a little bit of a different situation, even though there are some similarities throughout the roster. And it's going to be, this is all about Ryan Poles versus James Gladstone, in my opinion, more than it is about the coaches going head-to-head against each other. They're in a different division, in a whole different conference. So you might think, why does it matter? Oh, it matters a whole bunch in my mentions because fans have been really, really, really sort of lukewarm to the things that the Jaguars have done while they have praised Ben Johnson. I just warn y'all, don't let this stuff get to y'all like that. Remember I told you how the Jaguars actually beat the Lions in the race to the towards the playoffs? Remember I told you nobody would say anything about Hutchinson and Walker as long as the Jaguars won games? The second the Jaguars start losing games, now everybody wants to complain that they didn't take Ayton, but they took Trayvon, even though Trayvon had double-digit sacks. And then he did it again. But people don't care. Folks want their pound of flesh when things don't go their way. How do you keep it on the rails if you're James Gladstone and crew? You just got to be true to yourself. Stick to your guns. Stick to your plans. This is not about immediate gratification. This is about how it plays out and how folks win on the field. I'll tell you a little nugget here, and a lot of people won't realize this, but all you got to do is go back in the archives of these shows. Go back a year. I was standing on the table banging there for Brian Thomas Jr. and Quinyon Mitchell. There were other people banging on the table for other people, Terry and Arnold and Adonai Mitchell and Jackson Powers Johnson. They wanted him taken. And I'm going to stop picking him because he is a good player with the Raiders. But this is what was happening. A year later, everybody's glad that they took Brian Thomas Jr. and he's one of the 7 or 8 best wide receivers in the National Football League. See what results do? Results matter. All you got to do, you just got to stand in there. If you're Gladstone and crew, you just got to stand in there and take that stuff the way it comes and then make the results on the field be what people talk about. You can talk about me here on Locked On NFL, but make sure you check in the Locked On NFL Draft with my man Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. Now that you have seen free agency, Locked On NFL Draft matters even more because you're doing your mocks and you already have an idea of what these teams have done and addressed in free agency, and that can help you figure that out of what they'll do in the draft. So make sure you check that out. Locked On NFL Draft on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts each and every day. All right, man, we'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars. Take care.